T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, guys. We're going to call this live from Tinley, Winston Smith's hotel room. We got Daniel Solis on here today and Blakey 2-inch. Just got to Tinley about 30 minutes ago. Big weekend. We got our U.S. ARC auction coming up tomorrow night, which we're all excited about. Sean Gray, of course. We're going to be raising as much as we can for him this weekend. I'm excited about it. I've already seen some of the donations. I think it's going to be a good auction. So, like I said, guys, let's get rolling. And, with Sean Gray in mind today, guys, if you guys want to drop some super chats, we'll make sure to get it over to his family. Anything is always appreciated, honestly. So here comes our guest for today, Dan Solis and Blake Wilson, buddy. Blake Wilson.
How you guys doing today?
Very good. Very good, boy. So, Daniel, I kind of mentioned before we got started, you're the OG of this conversation because you were the first one traveling abroad and taking people with you. You kind of want to talk a little bit about what you got or how you got started in that and how you realized you could turn it into a career?
Yeah, for sure. Holy shit. It's cold, you guys.
Worth it, buddy.
I'm in New York right now. I'm currently living in Costa Rica. When I left, it was 95. Okay. And right now it's 45.
Sometimes.
I don't know if you can see.
Oh, yeah.
You gotta be careful in the first 5 minutes. Touch your nipples too much, we get demonetized.
Oh. No way, is that a real thing?
Oh yeah, man. That first 5 minutes is really touchy. You can't say a lot of things in that first 5 minutes. I learned the hard way.
I'm gonna show you my third nipple.
Yeah, that's second half information right there, man. That's last 30 minutes. They don't care after that.
Right on. Then we'll leave that for last.
But yeah, buddy, tell me a little bit about getting out there. Like, how did you end up in these countries, and how did you know you could set up these vacations for people?
All right. So I think all of us, including you, including every reptile keeper out there, has that connection, that connection to nature. It's almost, it's probably some primitive DNA thing where we have that connection. That's why we're keepers. I think that's how the fascination starts. And I think we took it a step further. We got out there, seeing it in nature, in real life, right? I figure, hey, I'm going to give it a try. I went out there for a tour, for an expedition, and I got hooked. Then I realized I can't be the only one. This is not just me. And sure enough, I started sharing some pictures about 8 or 9 years ago. And then I noticed people asking me, hey, I'd like to go. Why don't you take me next time? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Next thing you know, I had multiple people asking to join the expeditions. Then I figured, hey, this is something that multiple people share. And I found the connection between us keepers and regular people. So that's when I said, there's something here.
Okay. So just sharing stuff on your Facebook feed, Instagram, kind of got people hooked on what you were doing. And next thing you know, you were taking out, groups of 5, groups of 10? How do you usually like to do that?
Yeah, that's how it started. I think it was a couple of people just tagging along. And then I realized that, more people were asking about it. And we did larger groups. So we ended up doing bigger expeditions, 5 to 10 people at a time.
All right. What year did Blake start going out with you?
I don't remember, but he,
it was about 2 years ago.
Yeah, we've been Facebook friends, and I don't quite remember, but he was like, dude, I want to go. So I'm like, come on, let's go.
Okay. So, tell us on some stories, man. Like, so what was the first place that you actually did a tour in?
It was Costa Rica. And then from Costa Rica, I took some people to see Komodo dragons in Indonesia the next year after that. And then everywhere else. With Blake, I think we went to Peru first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you guys make connections while you're there? Because you're not going out by yourself, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, being friendly, I guess.
Okay.
You
Small
wanna
talk.
share some of that, Blake?
Yeah,
Well,
Blake's a friendly
man,
guy.
you just being friendly and talking to everybody, man. You talk to people and you meet new people, and then you just find tons of really interesting people. People down there, especially in South America, they'll do anything for $1. So you give them a little bit of money, they're willing to go with you wherever you want to go and do whatever you want to do, and that's pretty much all it is. Is you just get down there and you just start doing it.
Okay. So every time you take one of these trips, you find something, or you guys ever get skunked?
Oh, you get skunked for sure.
Get skunked. You got to guarantee money back if you don't find an anaconda.
Hey, my trip in Colombia, damn near. I can almost guarantee that we'll find big anacondas every time we go there.
Okay. So, I
It's a
mean, right
good
now, you
spot.
guys, Blake, I know you said you got guys around the world that are wanting to take these trips with you. Dan, to take the same thing, because, well, you had some Germans go out with you one time. Either one of you guys.
What was that?
How about this, Blake? So, you got some YouTubers that went out with you, some TikTokers. Did that help your brand? Did you get, like, booked solid after that?
Yeah. So I work with a lot of the social media guys, and that helps a lot. And a lot of the other people that do the herping expeditions, they don't like those guys. They don't like the people doing all the TikTok and the YouTube stuff. But I don't care. I like those guys a lot. Those guys are a lot of fun to hang out with. But they're not always like I guess like conservation savvy or whatever. They're pretty much about like the thrill and the excitement of the adventure and everything. And that's kind of been more towards what I've been moving towards, instead of like just herping expeditions, where a lot of people do those where they're taking people out just herping to find reptiles and frogs and snakes and things like that. I've been kind of moving towards taking everybody, their wildlife expeditions that regular people want to go on. And regular people will usually have more money than herping people, right? Field herpers. And so those social media guys really have helped out with that, because like Fishing Garrett, he goes on all my trips now. He comes with me, and he's got, I think, 8 million followers on TikTok and Instagram and all that stuff. And I pay for his trips, and he comes with me, and he's really, really good at finding stuff. He's really good at catching stuff. So we have a good time, and he gets me a lot of attention for expeditions for sure.
Okay. You guys staying out in the woods overnight on these trips, or are you guys usually going back to like a lodge?
Well, you're staying in the jungle, in like a lodge sometimes, but it's like they're like stuff that's built in the rainforest. You're in the jungle, in these camps.
Okay. You guys been anywhere near that place in the Amazon where they made that tree house? You guys know what I'm talking about?
It's from your friend Rosalie Paul. Whatever.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're
It's
talking about now.
it's relatively close to one of the destinations.
Okay. You
Yeah,
guys know
the
what's
guy is
that?
charging a lot of money to stay there. It's interesting for sure.
Well, no, I was going to ask you that what that would cost with that guy, because I saw you got Starlink hooked up. It seems pretty chill, all the accommodations, and you're up in a tree.
Yeah, it's definitely something interesting. I mean, he's now I can see how social media, um, how it's helping out with all aspects of the business. Like Blake said, man, now you gotta know where to advertise, and he's using social media and um, in content creators to
Yeah.
push this through, and it's a good idea. It's it's using the proper tools, the proper advertisement tools. So that place in the Amazon that you're talking about, it's geared towards some high-end clientele that want to go in the jungle. I want to say I saw prices per night in the $1,000 range for a stay in that treehouse.
Okay,
Wow.
I'll be honest, that's high, but that doesn't suck. I could, you could really
Right,
charge anything you want for a thing like that, right?
right. So and that guy is definitely more of a influencer,
Yeah.
Well,
TikTok, right?
but
Hmm.
I think that guy was on a Joe Rogan show, or Joe
Right.
Rogan
Imagine
show.
imagine that type of advertisement. You could
He's
literally
been all
charge
over.
anything.
Yeah, no, that's pretty tight. I like that. So you got people sign waivers when they go out with you guys?
They're supposed to, yeah.
Okay, you say that's
You know
really
what? I'm
quiet.
gonna say that they're supposed to. We do so much sketchy stuff that everybody should not only sign a waiver but get multiple either travel insurance and
Yeah.
life insurance and some contingency plan, because some of the stuff that even the stuff that Blake is doing can be a little sketch.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
People get hurt sometimes.
no, I get that. It's a scary place. So we kind of talked about this a little bit. So how many times have you been kidnapped so far, Blake?
Just once, just the one time.
Just that one time? Okay, it
Yeah,
didn't go that
yeah.
bad, man. You made
No,
it seem
no,
like
it's
it was a
not.
breeze.
And everybody gets that's what I hear the most about from regular people is they're scared to go to Colombia or Peru or anywhere in South America because they think it's dangerous. They think that they're going to get kidnapped or they're going to get killed or there's drugs everywhere. And it really depends on where you go. The places we go in the jungle are nothing like that. You're not even around people usually, so it's pretty safe as far as that regard. The only time I've had problems like that, like kidnapping or anything similar to that, is when you're in the big cities and you're doing things you're not supposed to be doing. You're hanging around some bad people. You're doing some bad things. And then you can find some trouble for sure. But if you're not in that kind of situation, you're not if you're not asking for it, it's probably not going to happen to you.
Okay, so to be honest with you, if I ever went down on one of those trips and I got kidnapped, I'd probably be the politest person ever the entire time, like Stockholm Syndrome, like 2 minutes in, tops. How would that
Yeah,
go for
yeah.
me, or do I got to be a hard ass? I'll
No,
pretend
you
I am.
gotta be a hard ass, I think, because the thing is they're wanting to intimidate you for sure. The people, if you're in this situation, they're gonna try to intimidate you. They want you to be scared. They want you to give them something. And if you don't have anything, and you're just like, no, 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 sorry, I don't have anything. I'm not gonna give you anything. They'll probably leave you. Probably. I don't. They might kill you. I don't know.
Okay,
It just depends.
depends how desperate they are. Dan, are you putting yourself in these situations also, or are you a little smarter about this?
There was a time or two. So again, like what Blake said, maybe I think their goal is to make some money. So sometimes, depending on what situation, if they can make a little bit of money, you'll be all right. I was kidnapped once in Indonesia, in one of the islands. Um, well, see, this situation was different. The guy, the one of the guys that runs the island, was drunk. They use a coconut. They it's a liquor. It's alcohol made out of coconut. They fermentate it and they do a similar process like moonshine,
Well,
and they drink it a lot, and it's quite smooth. So you don't realize how drunk you are until you're really drunk. So yeah, we weren't looking for any trouble. The guy saw me from far away, realized that I'm not from around, and said, "Now you're my guest." Well, it turned out that he wanted to try and fight somebody outside his village. I don't know, to prove that he can fight. And I don't think it would have been a fair fight. He was rather small and he was drunk. The problem is you can't do anything to him. You can't punch him. If you punch him, you have a lot of his friends, you know, ready to back him up. So I wasn't worried about fighting him. You know, it was more like he can just say, "Hey, I don't like you." You know, that particular island was 15-hour boat ride from a main island. They don't have cops or any type of security. He is the security. So also the island is it's rather small. There's no way to hide. So so luckily some of the locals realized that he was very drunk and decided to help us out. So they made a signal that they had a boat ready for us, but we had to run. So I ran, and I left my hook, I left my bag, I left my boots. I got onto the boat, and the boat took off in the middle of the night with no lights to a nearby island that was about an hour away, which it was another smaller island. But yeah, you know, this particular guy was known, you know, to be a killer. So this time I wasn't looking for any trouble. I wasn't, you know, it wasn't about drugs. It wasn't about being drunk because we didn't even drink. We just found one guy that was already drunk.
Okay.
He held us there for about 6 hours, and then that's when multiple people behind us figured out the escape route. They told us where to run, what boat to get on, and how to leave. So, and
Okay.
we did.
So, but were you concerned that they were all colluding against you and that boat driver might not have been your friend?
You know, no. At that point, I was like, any option, it's fine. I had my friend who was translating, and he's not too much of a fighter, and I can see him tearing up and kind of crying and telling me, you know, he was crying and telling me that we are in a bad situation.
Okay.
So
Well,
I had my knife. I had, you know, I was like, worst comes to worst, we're gonna give it a go. But my friend wasn't into the whole fighting scene, so at that point I felt like, you know, I didn't know the language. I don't know the area. I'm so far away. You could literally be disappear there and nothing happens. It's done. But luckily we got to the boat and the guy just took off, and you know,
nice.
and we got out of
Well,
that one.
well, that would have scared the hell out of me, and I'd probably never do that ever again, to be honest. Is this because I know in Africa, you know, I talked to some importers that have gone over there. They have the wrong tour guide. The guy robs them, leaves them high and dry. Like, is there a country that you guys feel the safest when you're out doing this? Yeah. If they're not safe, it's okay.
What do you mean? Like doing what?
Well, how about this? I'm a real soft guy. You know, I look hard, but I'm soft.
Yeah.
I want to go somewhere where, like, maybe a fruity drink with an umbrella at the end of the day. Is that asking too much?
No, no. The trips are generally pretty safe, and I've even brought little kids on these trips. I brought a friend of mine, Andrew Biddle, brought his two sons with him. I think they were maybe like 11 and 12, something like that, and they came with us. They had a good time.
Uh,
We
that
were we
South
were in the middle
America?
of the jungle. Yeah, we were in Peru. We were in the Amazon.
Okay, tight. So when you first get there, do you guys already have a game plan, or the locals say if we do this, we're gonna find something?
Go away, dude. Go inside.
I don't like the way inside.
All right, we'll go sit down. Sorry, what was that?
No, you're all right. I might have forgot myself. No,
We're
Sorry.
I was
talking about
saying
a
when you
game
first,
plan.
yeah, when you get there, do the locals say, "Hey, this is what we're doing today, and we're gonna find something," or do you say, "Hey, I want to see an anaconda. Go find me an anaconda"?
Uh, no, I mean you generally have it set up beforehand. You have you have where your base camp is, where you're staying. We generally just stick around that area, and we go search around there, and you can take the boats out and go catch cayman and go search the jungle. But you generally just go back to where your base camp is.
Okay.
But
So
you're in a good spot with so much biodiversity that you're not having that much problems. Like if you're going to the Amazon and you're specifically looking for anacondas, you're gonna have a hard time. It's not easy. I went with Dan. The first time I ever went to the Amazon was with Dan on his expedition in Peru in Madre de Dios, and we did find an anaconda, but we busted our ass finding that
Right.
snake. We worked our ass off, and we were dying, and we pretty much damn near gave up by the time we found it, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of work. It was a lot of struggle, but we did find one.
yeah, Daniel, your intro is kind of perfect because people in the hobby that work with certain species, Brazilian rainbows, anacondas, Amazon tree boas, to see it in the wild is kind of the dream. I grew up with all
Right.
the books, and the sad thing is, I've never really traveled, and all I ever do is talk about traveling. All my herping is in the United States. Um, so Daniel, you seem to be like a real diehard, like passionate herper. Like you love the whole experience, man. You're never bored on these trips, right?
No. Yeah. Again, I think if everybody had the opportunity to do something like this, it will become part of their life at one point or another. I've taken a lot of people in the industry out, and a lot of big keepers too, um, with looking for the species they keep. For example, Brazilian rainbow boas, Timor pythons, or other python species from Indonesia. And I find that not only they learn a lot more than reading in books or just doing a search on Facebook or online, but they realize ways of keeping animals that make them jump ahead in the industry. Because now they're just not hearing it from somebody else. They're the source of the information they saw firsthand. You cannot top that. Once you realize the way you keep animals and you compare that to what you saw with your own two eyes, and you will make the improvements as a keeper, then you elevate yourself as a keeper tremendously. And that equals more sales, better keeping of animals, and a better business. So I see it like this. If you're a serious keeper, part of the initial investment is your animals, infrastructure, and knowledge. Going to these destinations and learning firsthand, seeing them in the wild, can give you so much information. You're going to improve the way you keep, and you're going to improve your ability to produce these animals, therefore affecting your bottom end, so your income. I see it as an investment. Here's an example: the people that's going with Blake to see the anacondas, they're gonna find out that perhaps the way they're keeping the animals in captivity, it's not the best, and they might have issues breeding these animals because they're lacking certain things. Seeing the animals, feeling the temperature by yourself in your own skin, and seeing where they live can make a huge difference. So, yeah, I think I don't know. Maybe that's why it became a passion of mine, because I learned so much about keeping reticulated pythons and other pythons and other snakes. So, I think if everybody had the opportunity to go once, that trip becomes part of your life, and you will use that as a measuring stick on the way you keep animals, on the advice you give other new keepers, and the production. So
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with all that because honestly, some of my favorite breeders in the hobby have experience in the field with their species. They tend to overanalyze their species. They want to like hog-nosed breeders, especially in the United States. I talk about my buddy Jeff Galwood all the time. I mean, that guy's reading all the research papers. He's out in the wild trying to find these things. He's looking at what their diet is in the wild and he's trying to change little things in the way he does it. And he does great at what he does. So I think the hands-on experience, like you said, is beneficial for your company.
Yeah.
right. I mean, ask Blake what he saw between Blake as a anaconda keeper can tell
Yeah.
you what he saw. especially because he's been going to multiple countries that have anacondas on different environments.
Yeah, absolutely. That first trip though, whenever I went with Dan, is 2.5, 3 years ago or whatever. We talked a lot about it, and that was pretty much the beginning of me pretty much taking a step back from keeping. That's why I don't really have animals anymore. I don't keep very many animals anymore. And we talked about it a ton on that trip about how how you keep animals and how different it is, and seeing them in the wild and seeing how they actually live, and then looking back at how you've kept animals and how you're taught to keep animals. um, it's really eye opening. And
Yeah.
since then, I started wanting to change the way I kept things. I started keeping a lot of stuff outside. I built these huge enclosures, and I put snakes outside, and it was really cool. It was really cool to see a change in the behavior and everything on those animals. And slowly, I started. I got addicted to that traveling and going to seeing the animals, and I started getting rid of my personal collection. Now I don't have hardly any snakes. I do have my anacondas still. I still have 5 anacondas, big adults, but I have no other snakes. I have no lizards. And I used to have a really, really large collection of reptiles, and now I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm just traveling now.
No respect. I mean, honestly, you kind of have to pick one or the other. The animals are so much care at home. You can't be on the road all the time. And honestly, I don't blame you. Like I said, I come off a little timid about the idea of it. I'm sure I'd love it once I do it, but I don't know why, man. Maybe I'm one of those people who watches too many horror movies, but I just feel like one of those trips. What I keep telling people is the one trip I go with you is the trip you die on, and that's going to be on me.
Oh no.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I've said that to a lot of people. So yeah, but I'd love to go with both you guys. In all honesty, ups your odds, Blake. Ups your odds.
We'll have a lot of fun, man. You should come, and it's not scary. It's not bad. I think people have like the wrong impression of these countries. It's not that dangerous. The jungle's really not that dangerous. I mean, there are. I mean, you can get hurt, obviously, especially doing some of the things we're doing. Catching big crocodilians or catching big snakes. Um, you can get hurt, but if you know what you're doing, I mean, you've handled you've handled big anacondas. You've handled crocodilians in captivity. It's pretty much it's an extension of keeping these animals. It's you understand the behavior, you understand how to handle them, and not everybody's out there handling. I try to let if people have the ability, I do let people handle the animals, and and do certain things. We had a lot of people wanted to catch caymans on one of the expeditions, and I think there was like 12 people on that trip, and all of them wanted to have the opportunity to catch one, and I think they all got that. I wasn't even on that expedition. I got deported, and but it was one of my best trips, and I wasn't even there.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a lot about that trip. I believe out some of the fine print. But no, that's pretty tight, man. So tell me more about these experiences, though. Like, tell me, give me some stories, especially you, Dan, because you got a real passion for this. Tell me about going out and finding Rtics for the first time.
Oh man, that was a life-changing encounter. Like Blake said, man, you start looking at yourself, and it's hard being honest to yourself. It's hard, man, because I was taught very different on how to keep Rtics versus what I saw. And to now, I've been a breeder. I've been a keeper of large animals for a long time. Unfortunately, I wasn't keeping them correctly. As much as I try, I think unless you don't see them in the wild and realize the amount of ground they cover and how they have to stretch and how all reptiles bask one way or another, oh man, it was a life-changing experience. My first Rtic, I saw it in a creek, but I saw it move through the water, and he moved at least half a mile through the river.
Yeah.
okay, swimming freely. I saw how agile it was, and when I caught it, it was what my old self would consider skinny. But there was something different this time. I caught it, and it wrapped around my hand so strong, since that something so skinny was that just, it was that strong. That's when I realized not only our animals are fat, but we're definitely not giving them the exercise they need. And with exercise comes multiple other things. Animals that can potentially live longer and just have a better life. So unfortunately, that made me realize that, yeah, the way I was keeping animals and the way that most keeper at that time were keeping animals, it's wrong. So it was hard for me because I had to be honest with myself. In that time, I made the decision that I needed to improve as a keeper, and that I needed to start sharing that information or having people come over and look at the information for themselves. So I started cutting back. I cut back, and surprisingly, within the next 3 years after I cut back, I improved my the size of the clutches, the breeding, my percentage. I mean, I was producing lots of animals out of less animals that I was keeping after I understood multiple ways of keeping animals, especially retics. I was doing way better with less animals. I see it nowadays multiple times where keepers overwhelm themselves thinking the quantity makes up for it. It's not the case. But I think keeping animals, it can be addictive and it can touch on the hoarding behavior that we all share a little bit. Sometimes it's hard to admit
Definitely.
that, but we do. That's why we keep multiples. Sometimes we keep
Definitely.
multiples of the same thing. If that was any other item, let's say business cards or shoes, we will be considered hoarders.
Mm.
But it's hard to admit that, right? We don't want to say that we are. So I see it nowadays, and not to call anybody out, but there was a reason a big company that it's cutting back now because they simply have too many. Quality goes down. You stop producing the numbers that you need to cover the overhead, feeding, electrical, employees, labor, infrastructure. So what I realized first, that one time that changed my entire life was one, we're keeping the animals in way too small cages. And I know there's plenty of arguments that make sense, but the reality is, once you see it live in the wild, you change your mind. And I did. I slowly reduced the amount of animals I had, but what surprised me was that I was producing more and better quality. Attention to every baby, they were all eating, they were all very well established. My females were bouncing back correctly. I realized a lot of things that with quantity you miss. So to me, going and seeing the first animal, it changed my life.
Yeah. Well, you know, I always kind of talk about the reptile hobby is still kind of young in the United States. And, where it did get started a little heavier in the 90s, the early 2000s, I'd say was when it really boomed. Late 90s, early 2000s. And, I think the first guy who figured out how to build a rack system out of melamine felt like he cracked the code on hoarding. We
Yes.
found a way to just keep as many as possible. And, I don't know if this is a true story, but I was talking to a buddy of mine in California who's friends with the owner of Freedom Breeder. I should know his name. You guys got it? Lindy,
Uh, Lin,
Lindy,
Lin,
Lindy,
Lin,
right?
Lin, Lindy, yeah.
So the story he told me, and it might not be true, was originally Lindy was working with breeding rats. And then one day he came up with a concept of instead of having them all over his floor, putting them on these rack systems. And that's why he gave him freedom in his life to breed these animals.
Hmm.
And supposedly that's where the story, or where the name came from. If it did, someone can fact check me if I'm wrong. But if it sounds like a good story, just leave it as is.
It
Um,
is.
It's a good
But
story.
no, it's tough because, I do think there is a hoarder mentality to work with reptiles, especially willing to go quantity. And, I'll be honest, like, again, I got in the hobby around 2002, learning about the breeding side. And in the mid 2000s, I was watching snake fights every week. I'd
Mm-hmm.
sit down at lunch, put it on my computer, watch it, get back to work religiously. And I'm looking at my one rack system at home, and then I'm looking at that 40,000 square foot facility Brian had where he was producing 20 to 60,000 animals a year. And I'm all like, I want it. That's the goal right there, even just to work there. But the
Yeah.
reality is, it's very taxing to have a big collection. You lose a lot of freedoms. I can make a million plans to take a trip with you guys, but there's no guarantee I can actually make it work because of the animals.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true, and that's what I found out that it's very taxing, and the story always repeats itself. There has been some very successful companies, reptile breeding companies, that have made $1 million, millions in sales a year. It's a known fact, and it's multiple companies, which is incredible to even think about, that a hobby like this can generate that much capital.
Mhm.
And I notice, and it's just common sense to notice, right? You see it. They all end up in the same situation where they overwhelmed by the weight of their own animals. I think a better strategy would be quality and maybe diversification of assets. Developing a new a new tool, developing a new website, a new idea, a better outlet to sell animals, or other facets of the industry.
Yeah.
And most of these companies stick with the quantity of reptiles that only ends up in bad shape, borderline animal abuse, and people who themselves are under big stress, and they don't enjoy the animals anymore.
Yeah. There's the tipping point, but you don't realize the tipping point till you get to the
You know,
tipping point, and that's the problem.
unfortunately, that's the truth.
Yeah,
So,
but I will say that the hobby is evolving, and even like with the surge of bioactives in the hobby, like
mhm,
that's something that is really a positive. Like you guys discussing, I'm very jealous of anybody in Florida that can do outdoor enclosures. I'm in
right.
Missouri. My summers are short. Mike Schultz lives out here by me. Now he has pens for his tegus, and he brings them out every year. I've thought about doing the same thing for my blue tongue skinks. Get a bunch of
Yeah.
setups in the
You
yard.
should.
Something. I honestly, I'm good on. Like I've been
You should
talking
do it.
about it. Yeah, it's time, man.
It'll, dude.
But
It'll change the way you view everything, dude. Because I always put my lizards outside, my big monitors. I had crocodile monitors, water monitors, I had everything, and I would put those outside. But when I started putting the pythons and the anacondas and that stuff outside, and the stuff that you normally don't see much outside, that it just it's insane the difference in that you see in these animals. Their personalities is completely different outside.
Hmm.
well, yeah. So again, to bring in something artificial. I talked to Ryan McVeigh a lot about Viv Tech. And, he
Hmm.
even talks about with those bulbs when you put them in there, the animals change their behavior. They just like
Yeah,
go to the light. They're just like vibrant.
yeah,
So here's the thing. I believe that the reality is sometimes in the hobby we find the bare minimal effort you need to put in to get these
Right.
animals to survive and produce, and that is the industry standard. But the funny thing is like even when we talk about like feeding in the industry, now I believe that we overfeed about every species in the
I do
industry.
too.
Yeah, and
definitely.
there are some species though, and I always say ball pythons, man, what a great beginner animal. Bulletproof. They breed. You can feed them every day if you want. Sometimes they're just going to keep on packing it in. Nothing seems to go wrong most of the time, unless of course you run into something viral. Which another thing that we all run into the hard way because we don't really come into the hobby learning that aspect. Most people don't even talk about it if they know anything about it because it almost seems suspicious that they have so much information on that. You know what I mean? anything
Yeah.
viral in the hobby.
Mm-hmm.
So where's your collection at now, Dan? I mean, tell me about how many animals you were working with at one point before you started doing these expeditions, and how many you're working with now.
At one point, I was producing 1,000 reticulated pythons.
Okay, that's pretty
Sorry.
incredible, man.
So, so it was a lot of animals. Not only animals that are hard to find proper and responsible keepers for, but nowadays most people know sometimes those animals don't need to be mass produced. That does not equal more money. So then I switch over to a smaller animal. So I start keeping some of the super dwarfs.
Yeah,
Super dwarfs is a it's going to be a subspecies of those big retics, and they stay smaller,
yeah.
and they're not as prolific as the main as the larger animals. Nowadays, well, now I live in Costa Rica. I'm doing a project. It's a side project from the traveling, and I haven't been doing much travels now because I'm doing an eco lodge in Costa Rica.
Okay.
So my animals, my brother took over whatever I had left, and I didn't sell, and he's keeping that small collection. I don't know if it's more than 10 animals. From producing 1,000 animals a year, I went
Yeah.
to from producing 1,000 animals a year. So I had to first of all wholesale animals that I couldn't retail. It was just impossible. I didn't have the outlets. When you wholesale a lot of these animals, your margin, your profit margin, it's very small. But we're forced to because we can't manage, right? So it's interesting that when I produce 500 or less, my profit was bigger, was higher. So then I start cutting back, and then I realized with only a few animals, meaning in the 25 females or so, I was still producing close. I was producing less money, but my overhead was less, and that's something that some people don't understand. You're feeding less. You have more time. Your bill is less. Even if you produce less, your profit is equal. And it's hard to understand that with less animals, you can still be as profitable as if you had double the amount of animals. You dedicate
Um,
more time to the customer, and it works out. So right now, my brother has about 10, maybe 12 of my animals that I have more of sentimental value. But most of my time it's spent in Costa Rica doing the eco lodge.
okay, that's really cool, man. A couple points in which you just made. So when I feel like we all do this. We're talking to people that aren't in the hobby. Sometimes we'll flex and maybe talk about how much a retic can sell for, how much a ball python, just to give it a little street cred, I guess. We're working with animals. Um, Whenever anybody asks me about why we can charge 20,000 for an animal, like what determines that price, just like you said, it's supply and demand. If we oversupply anything in this industry, the demand can't keep up with it, and of course, it's going to crash prices. We've seen that with species over the years, where too many have came in for like monkey tail skinks over the years, where sometimes they were $1,200, and then they went down to $400 because there was so
Hmm.
many coming into the country. So the idea of keeping it a little bit smaller, the reality is it's a smarter business move. Higher quality, smaller collection. I know the big guys can do it, but I just don't think people understand what it takes to be a big guy
Yeah.
in the hobby. Like the mental part about it, trusting the people around you to work as hard as you're going to work with your animals. The moment you need to hand off the responsibility of your animals to somebody else, you cannot guarantee care anymore, in my opinion. Like
Right.
That's one
it's
of the
really up
biggest
to you.
issues for sure. Because that's
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons that I jumped out so quick is getting people to work for you is so hard. I had multiple employees over the last 2 years of me doing that, doing it fairly big. I didn't have a huge collection, but I had a lot of animals, more than I could care for by myself.
Yeah.
And I just could not keep employees because it's hard, man. It's so hard to keep people and trust people to do things right because, if it's not their animals, they're not going to treat it like they should, like it's theirs.
No, and one thing that was something I learned before I started doing this, I worked in factories. I was a plant manager for a little while, and one thing that boss told me that really I took onto this business was he always liked hiring people with no experience in that field because he didn't want the bad habits coming from another company.
Yeah.
So I love people that are just like, you have this many animals. I would love to see that. Those are the best employees. Those are guys that want to learn and they learn underneath you. So they're not picking up somebody else's bad habits.
Yeah.
But again, you got to ask yourself, is it really worth it? I've had people tell me really how much little they make every year every time they hire somebody new. Like, I think sometimes they pay more for that person than they're actually getting on top of having a new person they're working.
Yeah.
But so I think we're making everyone really sad. I want to talk a little more about just these experiences of like you said, learning this body language, seeing these animals in the wild. The anacondas have always really fascinated me. Have you guys ever run into a breeding ball yet in the wild?
No.
I would love that.
No,
That would be really cool. I go at a time where the females are actually either gravid or they just drop babies. When I go into Colombia, because it's the dry season, it's much easier to find them. So the trips that I go specifically looking for anacondas, you're not gonna see that breeding ball because they're gonna be breeding, I think like June, July, something like that, and in the wild. And I might be wrong, but but I know that from the dry season, whenever I'm finding these big anacondas, we're finding either gravid females or we're finding females that obviously just had litters because they're either really skinny or they're full of babies. And that's in January through March is whenever I go because it's the dry season in the northern part of or the northeastern part of Colombia where I go to find anacondas.
Okay. So where are you finding the females when they're gravid? Are they the same body language? Are they basking more? Like,
They
what's that like?
bask. Yeah, absolutely. So that's when you and that's what's crazy about keeping big snakes and I've even heard people say over the years that snakes don't bask, but snakes absolutely bask, especially these big
Absolutely.
snakes. I always
Absolutely.
see them basking. This morning I have pictures I can send you later. This morning, uh, my anacondas here in Texas were out basking because it was cool last night, and then this morning the sun came out. All six of them were out just in the sun basking, the males and the females. And
Okay.
but that's how I find them, these gravid females, and you'll find them up on a big tuft of grass that pretty much floats on the water. You'll see them out there basking in in these shallow water areas on top of the grass.
Do
Okay.
you ever find babies?
No, I haven't seen any small babies yet, like any tiny ones. We find some like yearlings and things like that. But it would be super cool to find like a whole bunch of,
I
fresh
know.
babies. I think that would be super cool.
Yeah. How about you, Dan? Have you ever come upon fresh babies in the wild on your adventures?
I found baby retics. I found baby retics. It's interesting because again, the behavior is somewhat similar. They do bask. The babies we find them during the day basking. It's a more it's not with babies. It's not out in the open, direct sun, but it's very crepuscular. Sometimes early in the mornings through the leaves, a little bit of sunshine, and then later on in the afternoon. Uh, but the babies, we do find them like that, and I found fresh babies, so it's awesome.
That's pretty excited. You guys ever find anything weird, like in a barren pattern, maybe a color that's just a little bit tweaked? No mutations
Uh,
yet?
no, not yet. That'd be super cool. I've seen some that were captured. There's a farm there in Iquitos, Peru, that they have an albino anaconda there that was found in Iquitos or around Iquitos. And I'm there a lot. I'm there multiple times a year in that area. But personally, I haven't come across anything too crazy. We did recently. We found a, a sorry, aquatic coral snake that was it was really dark. It was really black. I don't know if that's just I think that might be a more common thing, just like a normal variation in those, but the most of them that you come across are really brightly patterned, bright red. And this one was mostly black. So
That's pretty
that was kind of neat looking, but other
cool.
than that, everything is. I mean, we find a lot of cool stuff, but nothing completely crazy.
Well, here's the thing. Most herpers will herp their entire life and maybe never see a mutation in the wild. It's just
Yeah.
like it's a weird I know you don't, Blake, you probably met him. Daniel, you might know him. My buddy Eric Erb. We do a lot of herping in Missouri. He's an Ohio guy, and we always start in my backyard. And it must have been like 3-4 years ago. And I've got like a little stream that kind of goes to the backyard. There's like a couple little ponds that fill up, and we're just hiking along it, and he's all like, "There's an albino," and I'm staring at this puddle. I'm like, "I see nothing." There's all these little tadpoles going everywhere. I was like, "I see nothing." He points, and there's just this blind ass little albino tadpole just sitting right there in this little like sandy puddle, and you can see it blended in
Wow.
kind of nice. So we ran down, scooped it up, took it back up to the house. I raised it for about a year, and it started metamorphosing just around Tinley, maybe March Tinley. And I told a couple of the guys about it. It was a albino green frog, and all the frog guys at Tinley said it's gonna die. And I was like, "Are you sure it's gonna die?" And they're like, "As soon as that thing metamorphoses, it's gonna die on you." Metamorphosed, fed it a little bit, and then it got weak and died.
Wow.
Love the process, but yeah, I was sad. But just a funny thing, you travel everywhere. I go to a lot of spots in the United States, and I find a morph in my backyard. So you never really know where these things are going to pop up.
So Eric, right? Eric,
Yeah.
it's been with me on a few trips.
Yeah, that makes sense. You guys are all in the same clique. I've been herping with some of your friends. We talk about you. You've said nice things about me. I appreciate that. Well, let's talk a little more about what we're learning in the wild. So do you guys always do night expeditions, or is that just part of it?
I think Blake is finding a lot of stuff during the day, right, Blake?
So the Anacondas is all during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I don't like going out at night.
Why?
Yeah, you have to. I like to sleep, man. I like to go to bed early, but that's why I love the Anaconda expedition, because we go out during the day. We catch the big anacondas. We catch cayman. It's a good time, and we do the night hikes and stuff. There's a lot to be found at night there as well. But with like the Amazon and places like that, it's mostly night. You're finding most of the stuff at night. A lot of the things are moving at night, and so you got to get out there and you got to really look.
I think it was the trip that Dlrp took with you. You guys found that possum that looked like it was covered in like yellow pollen at night.
No, it wasn't a possum. That was it's a porcupine. So it's a type of prehensile tail porcupine that they're bright yellow like that.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called like a tricolor porcupine or something like that, but it's a different species that I actually didn't recognize. I thought it was just a regular prehensile tail porcupine. Yeah. It was bright yellow, and I was like, what is that? What the fuck is this thing? It was super cool.
Yeah, no, that was definitely something I think out of all your trips really stood out to me. Dan, did you get to see that video of that animal?
Yeah, I saw it. It was so cool. I haven't been lucky with mammals, man.
Yeah.
I can't find anything, mostly because it's we go during the nights, so I haven't found much mammals.
Okay. So when you guys go to these countries, do you treat it like all herping trips? You guys flipping logs over, flipping rocks over, or is it more like walking and observing?
I guess you do a little bit of everything.
Everything? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like herping back home. I mean, you're out there, you're looking for stuff in the ground. You're looking for stuff under rocks, under trash. You search just like you would at home. The animals act similar.
No, respect. So here's the thing. You got a million stories. I'm trying to draw stuff out of you. I feel like I'm just doing a shitty job at it right now. I feel like I'm really failing both of these questions. But don't even worry about that guy. Daniel, tell me one of these experiences that when you're talking to somebody, like one of your favorite times out, like one of those ones that you just always think about when you close your eyes.
Okay, so it has to be. So finding animals, and that, I talk about that connection, okay, with the animals. There's something else that happened that wasn't part of the plan, and it's the human connections that you do, that you make. So here's an example. When Blake came along, I think somehow we ended up with, you know, taking medicine for the soul.
Medicine for the soul, absolutely.
And then you share that moment, right? And you're out in the jungle, you're touching those primitive behaviors that we often forget living in town, living in cities. Then you do it with a group of friends, and then you have these experiences. Then it's not just herping, looking for animals. Then it's creating memories that will last a lifetime.
Hmm.
Creating
If
these
you remember
memories.
them,
Was that
I said, if you remember them.
right? And then yeah, so that's definitely one of the fun parts of the trips. That there's sometimes alcohol and then medicine, and then other experiences besides herping.
Yeah,
So often we advertise, right? Hey, it's looking for animals, right? But there's more to it. It's living a life with friends or people that will become your friends for the rest of your life,
yeah,
and making this new circle of friends. That experience, it's hard to get, man. It's hard to get. And these outings often bring people together, okay? And
Yeah.
then you end up friends and living these experiences together. So
yeah.
one of the interesting things is that a lot of my friends are through these trips, through the expeditions, through enjoying herping and doing these outings.
Well, it's the next chapter of your life, and the people you're meeting in that chapter share that same interest with you. So you got to keep them around.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, Blake. Like I said, have you guys? Okay, so the black cayman. Are you guys like walking around in like chest high water in areas where these guys are at? Are you guys playing it a little safer? Yeah,
For
he'll
for
come
the
back.
for the black caimans, it's they're in the bigger like ponds, lakes, things like that, and you got to go out there at night to kind of look for them. And it really depends on where you go. I had a buddy that's up. He was up in Guyana a couple weeks ago, and he was telling me all about how they were everywhere in the river. And in Peru, it's not like that. You got to go looking for them. You got to go out. The Peruvians kill them a lot, or they used to anyway. In in Iquitos in that area, they're super hard to find because there's so many people in that region, and they hunt the crocodilians, and they're all gone. But in
Wow.
southern Peru, where we go, we find them in these lakes. We find them in the river sometimes. You kind of have to search for them, but they're big crocodilians. I mean, they're as big as alligators.
Yeah.
And we go out and we I have good spots where I know where they're at, and we go out there and I have a buddy that's really good at making that baby call, that little baby alligator chirp.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. I'm not even going to try. I'll embarrass myself. But he does that, and that'll actually get the bigger caimans. I don't know if it irritates them or if they think maybe it's their babies, or I don't know what it is, but you get a reaction out of them, and they start coming out, and they come and investigating. Like, what is that? The big males come out. I assume because they want to eat, a easy meal, a little baby over here. And then we actually caught a big female. I'm sure you've seen the picture of us with the big black cayman that we caught. That was a big female that we called her, and she charged us. She came at us uh, really hard, like trying to. I don't know if it was trying to protect a baby or if it was like a food type thing, like an easy meal. But she came at us, and that's how we were able to actually get her. And we take measurements, we take samples from them and things like that for the. Um, I'm trying to think of the name.
Foundation, local university, some kind of
It's
scientist in the
the
woods.
reserve. The reserve. So they're doing research on the caimans down there, and so we take some information for them, and that's why we're allowed to do that, and we're allowed to keep bringing people down there, is because we're helping in the conservation of these animals. And there's actually one study they're doing is on the spectacle caimans. In this particular area of the region, we're catching these spectacle caimans that they're completely different looking. They look like more like crocodiles. They have really long, slender snouts, and they're a bright green color. They're way different than the spectacle caimans you'd catch in like Central America, Colombia, and even northern Peru. That we catch the normal looking spectacle caimans, but the ones in this one area that we've been collecting, they're very different looking. They're believed to be either a new species or a subspecies of spectral cayman, which is really interesting.
Or so overly inbred over the years from being a small population, they just started getting deformed.
Well, it's not even a small population. I mean, it's like a whole area of this one river, and it might be like you were saying, maybe not inbreeding, but there's a lot of pollution. There's not a lot of people, but there's a lot of gold mining in that river. And when you go down this area, you see these gold miners, and it's an illegal thing. They're not supposed to be gold mining out there. But what they do is they pull up all the debris, all the rocks and everything out of the river, and they run it through these big sloughs, I guess, and to collect every little thing. And they just pile up all the rocks in the river on these sloughs, and then they go through it, and something about mercury. They have to dump mercury, mix mercury with it to get the gold out or something, and then they dump all that in the river. So there's a lot of mercury pollution.
All right. That's
hang on, I'm sorry, my kid keeps coming here. Get in the house. But yeah, there's a lot of mercury pollution in that river, and maybe that has something to do with, these caimans being a little bit different. But I don't know. They're super cool, and I have pictures and stuff if you want to take a look at sometime at the difference in these caimans. But it's really interesting.
No, so one of the things I always say after the podcast that we never do is, promote the podcast by putting some pictures in the comments, a little bit about what our discussions are to kind of get people where they can look at it. If I was better with the computer, I could just show the pictures. I could bring Daniel back if I was better, man. But I'm afraid I got 5 buttons on the screen, and I know one of them's gonna ruin the whole thing for everybody. So I think we just lost the man completely. I mean, if MJ noticed it, but I know, I think he's gone, man. That's our fault. I know. So when you guys run into these gold diggers out there, what do you do?
These gold miners. You just kind of, usually whenever you're going up the river, and you'll be in like an old wooden boat, and you'll be coming down the river, and you'll see them kind of a ways out. And when they see you coming, they actually usually take off into the jungle, because it's illegal for them to be out there in the first place. And a lot of times they call it the Navy or the military or something. They come out there and they destroy these gold mines, and they'll destroy all the equipment, and they'll arrest these people for doing the gold mining. And I think what I've heard is it's like an automatic 10 years prison if you get caught gold mining. Because I mean, it's very bad. It's very bad for the environment. It destroys the river. It destroys the ecosystem. You can actually see the damage. I'm told you could see it from space through satellites and stuff through the river. You can see where parts of the jungle along the river that it's destroyed, but you can definitely see it from a plane, the damage that it's caused. But it's very illegal. So when you do come up on them, typically they run off into the jungle. If they realize that you're not military, they'll kind of stick around. They'll keep working. They'll keep doing it. Actually, the guy that we stay with, it's him and his family built this camp in the jungle. It's a beautiful place, and he's an ex-gold miner, so he used to do that as well. And then he got into tourism, I guess. We started going out there, and I guess he makes more money doing tourism than he did gold mining. So I don't think he still does it, but he definitely used to.
So, very selfishly, when you started taking these trips, and how much I love having these conversations, I've been kind of saying you need to find these characters out in the woods so we could talk to them together. And you told me about that one guy in Peru, the boa breeder out in the woods. You don't have
Oh
to give us
yeah,
too many details, man, but tell us a little bit about
that's
that guy.
so that's Ryan Richards. So if you're into locality boas, I think a lot of people know who Ryan Richards is. I had no clue who he was. I'm not a boa guy. We actually just accidentally found this guy in the in the jungle. This
Yeah,
really old dude. He's got to be in his 70s, I think. And but he is the one. So if you own legally imported Peruvian boa constrictors, they more than likely came from Ryan Richards, and that's Boas Peru, I believe, is the name. So I've seen a lot of people post, oh, this is an import from Boas Peru, or this is Ryan Richards' line of boas, and so I guess he's more well known than I realized when I first found him. But
yeah,
how I found this guy, we were out in this village, and we were talking to these people that lived in this village. I think we were having lunch or something there. Like this lady was cooking some food for us, and some of the people are curious. They see some white guys hanging around. They want to come talk to us, and this older guy come up, and he was talking to us, and we are telling that they were looking for snakes. And he's like, "Oh, I know a guy in town that has a boa." And we're like, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah." And he's like, "You wanna see it?" And we're like, "Yeah, let's go." And so he's like, "Let's go tomorrow." He said, "In the morning." He said, "Well, I'll take you out there, and we'll go to this guy's house, and we'll see this boa." I'm like, "Okay, cool. It'll be neat to see somebody who's." I just assumed it was a guy who had a pet boa, and the guy was telling me it was massive. I'm like, "Okay, cool." And so the next morning we meet up with this guy, and we drive into town. It takes us probably an hour or two to get there, and we get to town, and we start walking down this road, and we find this shack, I guess, and we start walking behind this shack, and this big German Shepherd comes out and just starts barking at us, and this old white guy comes out in some boxers, just nothing but boxers, and he's like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Get off my property!" Yelling in English. And I'm like completely confused because I thought it was going to be a Peruvian guy. And I thought it
yeah,
was going to be some jungle guy who had a pet boa that he caught. And then this white guy comes out and is yelling at us, and he had no clue we were coming. So this guy that was telling us his buddy, I don't even think they were friends. He just knew knew of him, and he didn't ask permission. He didn't. So this guy had no clue we were coming. I think we scared the shit out of him trying to walk onto his property. And he's like, "No, nobody's allowed here. I have over 200 snakes here. The general public's not allowed here." And we're like, "Holy shit! Like, what is this place?" And we kind of were talking to him about like, "Hey, we're here looking for snakes. This guy was telling us you had boas or something." And he's like, "Well, let's walk down the road and we'll have a beer and we'll talk about it." I'm like, "All right." So we go down the road and talk with this guy, and he just starts telling us about how he moved down to Peru in the 90s and started breeding boas, and he has this huge boa facility, and he's one of the only people, or I think he said he's the only boa constrictor exporter in Iquitos. And eventually we were able to talk him into letting us go see his facility, and we saw the animals. He's working with some really incredible boas there. The guy's a little nuts, and I don't think he's watching this because he doesn't really. He just kind of lives in the jungle alone, and he doesn't really use a whole lot of internet or anything. He's a great guy. He's a little crazy. I mean, he's,
yeah.
he's a goofy guy, but he produced some incredible boas, and
Well,
we got to see a lot of it.
he could be watching this, and I have heard that you've since you've known him, I think he's made a Facebook page.
Yeah, he
About
did.
this?
We kind of were telling him because he had a website and he didn't understand that we're trying to tell him like, look, you need a Facebook, you need an Instagram, you need to publicize yourself a little bit better. People don't know about you. People know Bushmaster. Some people know Bushmaster, who was selling all Ryan's boas. So if you bought boas from Cam, or if you bought them from Switalski, who bought them from Cam, Cam was getting them from Ryan.
Mhm.
And so that's where all these came from. And Ryan was assuming that Cam, that's Bushmaster Reptiles, who's a wholesaler, if for people who don't know. I'm sure you know who I'm talking
Is he
about.
still in the game, by the way? I thought I heard rumors that maybe
No,
done with
so
him.
I don't believe so. I think from what I've heard is that he still imports, but it all goes to Strictly, maybe. I don't. That's just what I've heard. I don't. I'm not affiliated with any of these people, so I don't know. But
We
that's what
may
I've
be
heard is
saying
that.
too many names, buddy. We might want to tone it
Yeah,
down a little.
yeah. I don't like talking about stuff that I'm not a part of, and I don't know is
Yeah,
100% fact. But of course, I know Cam wasn't telling people that the boas came from Ryan, because obviously, as a wholesaler, as an importer, you don't want people taking your connections. And
sources.
I might be stepping on some toes there, even mentioning this, but Ryan wanted more people to know who he was, and I was like, look, you got to make a Facebook, you got to do all this stuff. Me and Andrew Acevedo, so we were the ones that went to his facility, and we're trying to help him out and help him get out there a little bit more. And I think he has made a Facebook, and I've seen a lot of people in the BOA groups and stuff talking about him. So maybe he is a little bit better known now.
I think he's jumping into some people's DMs, buddy. I've heard some very interesting stories.
That's good. Well, maybe
Yeah.
maybe he'll get some more customers. I think what I've heard the last time I was just in Peru a couple weeks ago, and from what I heard from another breeder down there in Peru is that Ryan might have sold his business. So Ryan Richards or gave it to another guy who's helping him, I guess helping him grow, I assume, or maybe he sold it to somebody who's going to be trying to grow it. So I believe it's going to be somebody else going forward. That's just what I was told last time I was there.
So you keep on using the word facility. Explain what that means down there.
Okay, so his facility is very different than what you and I would have, because he's in the jungle. So he's got the perfect weather for these snakes. What he has is, and this is his home as well. It's not. He doesn't have any walls. I think he has one wall along the front near the road, and the rest is like an open pole barn. It's this big pole barn with a roof over it. He's got some classic metal rat racks, like the Freedom Breeder rat racks, but there's some that he built himself.
Mhm.
And then he's got a table. This is all outside. It's all on dirt ground. He's got a table with a mattress on it, and that's where he sleeps. And then he's got all these giant boxes, and they're like 8 foot by 4 foot by maybe 2 foot tall, with
Mhm.
open tops, and they're all made out of screen. So the sides are all like mesh, like a real soft mesh. It's not anything that they can mess their faces up on. It's not like wire mesh. It's a softer mesh. And he's
Yeah.
got these huge boxes, 8 foot by 4 foot, with dividers in them. So they can either be 8 foot by 4 foot, or they can be 4 foot by 4 foot sections. And he has hundreds of boas, and it's all boas, is what he has. He has Peruvian boa constrictors that were collected in Iquitos, in and around Iquitos. And he's got some with aberrant striping, and he's been actually able to reproduce that striping as kind of like a morph. I don't think he understands the morphs stuff, the genetics behind things like that, but he has been able to reproduce a lot of these striped boas, and they're really cool. I have some pictures as well of those. But that was really interesting. But all this stuff is kept in these mesh boxes because they're getting the proper heat and humidity and things like that, because they're in their native range.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, it makes sense. I thought, I mean, when you told me about this guy being a boa guy, I mean, I got really interested. That was one thing that I said I would come down probably just to meet a guy like that. And I think you said he was from Wisconsin, and I'm from Wisconsin, so I could
I
probably
think,
break the ice. Yeah.
yeah. Maybe I don't know if he would let people come to the facility again. He told me and Andrew that we were like I think he said maybe 5 people have ever been to that facility, is what he told us. And he didn't want any Peruvians in the facility. I don't I don't know why. He lives in Peru, but he because my buddy Ricky that we go there with, he was gonna come with us. And he's like, no Peruvians. Ricky's Peruvian, and we're like, okay, whatever. And and I haven't really talked to Ryan much since we went there. I think him and Andrew kind of talked about maybe doing a shipment or something to work together.
Yeah.
But I haven't spoken with him, and I don't know that he will allow more people there. I think he wanted us to buy some bows, and I'm not even in the industry anymore. I'm not into the buying. I think maybe him and Andrew were trying to work something out, and I don't know if that ever happened. But I think it was mostly him trying to make a contact for selling his animal, selling his product. And I think we helped him a little bit. We kind of explained to him how he needed to be on Facebook and all that stuff. I wasn't ever really interested in purchasing animals. I was interested on information on how to do something similar because I did want to have a facility down there to export animals, and I thought maybe even working with Ryan on that. I spoke to him about that, but it never really happened. He's a really private guy. He's a little strange. He's a little different.
Oh, well, I think living in the woods will do that to you.
Yeah.
I think, I wouldn't want the locals knowing what I'm doing. When
Yeah.
they realize I'm profiting off of something, I mean, sometimes people are going to want their piece. Having a
Yeah.
couple of guys from out of town, I'd probably be more willing to have you at my facility if you're from out of town than somebody in town.
Yeah.
So I don't really blame him on that, man. So you said your relationship with that guy is kind of like, you don't really see him anymore, right?
No, I haven't talked to him since I was there that one time. And like I said, I heard from another guy that he sold the business to somebody else. Another, I guess, a local person that was into that. There's actually a large community of people in Iquitos, I'm finding out, that are working with animals. I met up with this guy named Fernando in Iquitos last time I was there, and he's working with the emerald tree boas. So I
Oh,
don't know how much you know about the emerald tree boa stuff, but there's a species of emerald tree boa there in Peru that is not a basin, and it's not a northern. It's completely different. And we find them all the time. They look like kind of maybe integrates, but we
mhm.
find them a lot. They look like basins, but the back pattern, like the head is like a basin, but the patterning is closer to a northern. So they don't have that stripe that the basins typically have. They're
Okay.
a little bit different, and so Fernando's working on breeding those and getting some info out there on uh, it being a different species. And I've actually heard uh, the I can't think of the guy's name, the Irish guy that does the genetic stuff.
Oh, you're talking about Warren Booth.
Warren, yeah, Warren Booth. So I've heard him mention about that as well, that they're a genetically different species. So I believe he's done something with them as well. I just remember he commented on something I saw before about it, and because I was confused. The first time I saw these things, I was like, I don't know what it is because it's not a northern, and it doesn't look like the typical basin that we have in the trade, and so it was confusing for me. And then I think Warren was the one who was like, "Oh yeah, they're actually different. The ones that you get in Peru are a different species." So that guy Fernando is working on that, and he's got a lot of other snakes and stuff too. I actually brought my last group to Fernando's facility, and he's got an indoor facility. It's typical. He's an American. Well, he's a Peruvian, but he grew up in America. Then he moved back to Peru, and he's got tons of snakes there, and he keeps them in racks and then in these big custom cages that he built. And he's working on getting some Bushmasters and doing some venom research and things like that. But he's really focusing on these emerald tree boas. I think he really wants to get something going with these emerald tree boas, which is really, really interesting.
No, that's tight. Ron St. Pierre recently got those emeralds in that had that really beautiful yellow calican up the side.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw a couple other pictures of stuff they haven't started showing off yet. And man, you just don't see there's limited variety in those things. Well, you had that Anaconda morph pop up years ago.
Yeah.
You got a couple lion bred, a couple guys' names on some of these projects, but there's some pretty wild stuff out there that really hasn't come to fruition yet. And I'm sure you've seen some pretty cool ones down there.
Yeah, yeah. It's like I said, you see things when you're going into the jungles. You see species that we have in the hobby, but we don't have this locality, or we don't have this, and maybe it's different subspecies like the cayman or like these boas. Uh, they look different than what we're used to seeing all the time because we have a general idea of the way things look in our head, and then when we find them in the wild and they look completely different than these thousands of imports that we've seen over the years.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting. We found crebos, yellowtail crebos, in Peru that have bright yellow heads, and they're completely different than the ones that are imported from Suriname every year. It's really interesting to see the differences in the animals in the jungle.
So when you say that animal now, do all the ones in that region all look the same, or is there like kind of like with coach whips in the United States, one might be high pink, one might be low pink?
So with in regards to the emerald tree boas, all the ones I found are that other
The Crebos, buddy.
the Crebos.
The
We've
yellowheads.
only found two Crebos so far, and one was in the Madre de Dios, which was southern Peru, and that one was the really bright headed, really pretty one that was out of the ordinary. And then the other one we found was in Loreto, Peru, northern Peru, and that one was more common looking. So it might have just been a one-off, but it really gets you thinking though. Like, this is a beautiful snake, and Madre de Dios that's also where we've had that. We've seen a lot of. We find the emeralds there. We find the different looking caymans there. And it's a different part of the rainforest. It kind of borders Bolivia, and so it's a different region completely than the northern part of Peru, which is a different part of the Amazon. So I think it's variation, like locality variation for sure down there.
So, I always talk about ball pythons because I believe most of them it's Ghana is where most of the ball pythons are collected, I'm pretty sure. But when these collectors start going to different regions, they find very different looking animals. So that really doesn't surprise me down there. And, the reality is, these collectors are not going hundreds of miles. They're going to a central area. And a lot of what we have here was all from that one little area.
Yeah.
The backstory on Hog Island boas, collecting them back in the day, almost depleting the population in the wild?
No.
Yeah, dude, when this hobby discovered Hog Island boas, man, I heard, in the mid-2000s, I heard people were going there and they couldn't even find one in the wild anymore.
Wow.
And there were people for a long time that thought they were just completely wiped out. Long story short, Dave Kaufman just did a documentary. He's working on a documentary there. Without giving away everything, he did have success finding these animals in the wild there. And I know the ones we have in the United States are pretty, a lot of people bred them Colombians, and you get some of these hog islands, they're supposed to be like 3, 4 feet, 5 feet, and they're like 8 feet, but they look just like a hog island still. They get a lot of those attributes. But seeing the ones in the wild, man, they just don't even look like what we have.
Really?
And, I look at Vin Russo stuff because Vin has some really beautiful hog islands. Tim Bailey got a pair in through the zoos in the United States. I think one came from one zoo, one came from another. I think it's the Sears line's another unique one. But I've always loved the hog islands. But the reality in this hobby, it's impossible to find pure ones. There's only a few sources, in my opinion. And once they change hands, man, it's tough. But here's the thing, I got a lot of respect for the mental change of you going in the woods and then looking at what we're doing here. It's probably one of the most truthful things you could say about it. And I don't think people realize, when I talk to guys at the shows and I tell them about going herping, they're like, "Oh, I don't do that." And it's like, why not, man? I thought you were into fucking reptiles, man. Get out there and find something, flip some shit. And then, in the same regards, man, I'm not going to name drop, but you guys who are listening know who I'm talking about. But, I did the Patreon party out at MJ's place and met 3 great guys. They cornered me at the party. Once I realized they weren't trying to, you know what I mean, I realized we were going to go do some herping together. And honestly, what a great fucking time. We found a red diamond. Fucking off just in this random ass place that MJ put us on, and love those guys. They're here this weekend. I'm gonna be hanging out with those guys all weekend. I saw them when I was down in Daytona. They were talking about one of these trips with you.
Man, I'm jealous that you're in Tinley right now, man. I want to be there so bad. I had a I had a table and everything, but I had to give all that up.
Yeah, I'll be honest, man. You're looking good. You're slimming down. You're looking good. And
Oh, thank you, baby boy.
Yeah, word's getting around, man. There's going to be, you know what? I'm going to tell a bunch of women this weekend you're going to be here, and where usually that would really disgust them. I think there's going to be some sad people this weekend, man. Yeah, I think some are going to feel a little let down, but I'll be honest, man. I miss you at shows. Yeah, I know it's not like we like spend all our time together, but you know, there's always a story if I run into you at a show.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I always like seeing you. I always like going to the shows, and I'll be around too. I don't, I moved out, but I'll be coming back a lot. My kids are still in Texas, so I come here a lot. I'm in Texas right now,
yeah.
and I'll be going to the shows. I plan to be going to the Tinley. I actually want to keep my table at Tinley and do promote the trips and stuff from my table there. So I'll probably start doing that in March, and hopefully, I think in March I'm going to be in Columbia, so I might have somebody else there doing it for me. But going forward, I'll probably hopefully have that table and be able to promote the trips and maybe give discounts if people sign up at the show or something like that.
Okay. Oh, here's the thing. So first off, I love your rebranding or your new branding.
Yeah,
The logo of you is fucking solid. Looks awesome.
yeah.
Love everything about it. It's got all your best qualities in one logo. Who did that for you, by the way? Was that
As Adeline.
I
Yeah,
knew it was gonna be Adeline and Chris. Yeah, I didn't wanna,
absolutely.
yeah. You know what? They really capture the essence of the person they're doing a logo about. They've done a few for me that I've done nothing with. Yours, man. Oh man, I
Dude, it
love
was
that design.
whenever she sent that to me, I was like, "That's incredible." She gave me a 6-pack.
Yeah. Well, hey,
So dude, I've been going to the gym now. It's just I gotta look like that guy on my logo. I've been doing sit-ups every day,
yeah.
crunches. I'm trying to get me a 6-pack going. So I'm hoping by the maybe not the end of this year, but mid next year, maybe I'll look a little bit like that guy on the logo. It's a good motivation for me.
Okay, well, I'm sure they were just trying to do false advertising, but you know, if you wanna be what that is, I don't blame you, man. That was an awesome fucking picture.
It is.
Um,
It's a great logo. I absolutely love it. She did an
yeah, no,
excellent job on that thing.
that's funny. For everybody who's listening, you guys already know what they're doing over there. But Adeline and Chris knocking out great logos. Everything that I've done for the last couple of years has all gone through them. Shameless
Yeah,
plug, man. Can't wait to see them this weekend.
yeah.
Well, here's the thing. I know you don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'll be honest. I haven't had enough yet.
I got plenty of time.
Yeah,
I'm having a good time. I got a lot of stories. If you want to hear some things, you can ask away. We can chat
well,
until you're ready to go.
why don't you guide me a little bit, man? Why don't you tell me something you haven't told me about? You know, I'll be honest. You know, as much as we talk, it's like one-liners and dick pics. So you know, it's not like we're having real conversations ever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know how to guide you. What do you want to hear about? I don't know what
Oh,
interests you. What would be good for your
well, should we get into some of the more inappropriate stuff, but appropriate? You know, tell me some
right?
of these
Yeah.
like, you know, you just go ahead, man. You don't have to think twice, man.
I gotta be careful. My girlfriend's probably watching this. I don't want to say anything
No, that's fine. Well, I'm
too
not talking about all that.
too
I'm talking
bad.
about yeah. There's plenty of other things you've done down there. Yeah, just go with it, man. You know, I don't have to give
Well, you
you.
wanna you brought up earlier about the kidnapping. You want to hear that story? I
Yeah,
don't know
let's
if
go.
I've ever told you about that.
Small details, buddy. I want to hear it again.
Okay, well, what I was saying before is you're not if you're thinking about coming on a trip and you're scared, you're worried about bad things happening because you hear about people in Colombia getting kidnapped or things like that. Uh, this is always people that are doing things they're not supposed to be doing. It's
Mm.
things that you're in bad areas, and this is what happened to me. Is when you're on my trip, you're not going to be in this situation unless you want to be. I can take you. I can take you to some bad things, and we can do a lot of bad things. We can have a lot of fun, but uh, generally the trips are very safe. We're in the jungle. We're away from uh, the crime, or away from the problems that you might read about online. But anyway, I was in Colombia. I was in Bogota, and I was I was alone. For one, this is the worst thing you could do is be alone, be a white guy alone. But I was, I like to have fun, and so I was in this club or bar. I don't know. I don't really know what it was. It was something, and we had bought this. It's a recreational substance. It was called Tussie, and I to this day have no fucking clue what Tussie is, but I was doing it, and it was you snort it, and it's pink. It's this pink powder, and it fucks you up completely. It fries your brain a little bit, and I was in this bar doing this, and I was dancing, having a good time, and I started noticing these guys just kept staring at me, and I might have just been, out of my mind a little bit, but these people just kept looking at me, and then this guy kind of comes up to me, and he said, I don't speak perfect Spanish. I can understand a lot. I can speak enough to get food and get girls or whatever. I can get by, but I was this guy come up to me and he said something along the lines of, be careful. And I thought it was like a threatening, like watch yourself kind of thing. I was like, excuse me? I was like, what do you mean be careful? And he's like, be careful. And then just kind of like, just kept saying it. He was, I don't know, he's a little intimidating. So I was like, all right. And I was just, get out, this kid. But, and he said that, and then I was starting to worry. I was like, oh, what's kind of going on here? Why is he telling me that? I kind of ignored him, and I kept doing my own thing, right? And these other guys were looking at me, but it's they look at you because you're a gringo in a place full of these brown folks, and so I'm not thinking too much of it. But then these guys, I make up in my head that they want to kidnap me. That's kind of like in my head, like something's wrong. These guys want something from me. And so then I get defensive. And so the next guy that kind of comes near me, I kind of bow up at him. He says something and I kind of like push him, right? Because I think that they're trying to do something. And he gets all upset and he goes and tells his friends. And then all these guys just come at me and they grab me and they kind of like push me outside. And we're talking. I hope my mom's not watching this because I had mentioned none of this. They kind of pushed me outside, and I'm all upset, and I'm taking this drug, and I actually found out later by talking to this girl that was there. She told me that I started all of this because she said that these guys just wanted to talk to me because I was a foreigner, and then I started like getting in their face, asking what the problem is, and then. Apparently, I started the fight, but I was messed up on that Tussie stuff, and they pushed me outside, and I'm just freaking out. Like I know they're like all these guys are gonna kill me or something. They kind of throw me into this room, there's like a door, I guess somebody's house or something, or an apartment or something like that, and we go in there and they kind of hold me down. There's these four guys on this chair, and they're like yelling at me in Spanish, and then they're like, "Give us some money." I'm like, no, fuck you. I'm not giving you anything. I didn't have any money anyway. I didn't have hardly anything on me. Yeah. And they're like, give us money. I'm like, no. And then they're like, call your family, tell them to wire us money or we're gonna kill you. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. Like I'm not gonna do that. And I was upset, but I wasn't gonna give them anything, and I wasn't gonna act like I was scared either. And that might have been what saved me is I was just not acting like it bothered me at all. But it did. I was nervous because I didn't know. You don't know what these people are capable of. I've seen some weird shit happen in that city. I've seen people get shot. I've seen a guy in Bogota get his head bashed in with a baseball bat. Bogota's a sketchy city if you go to certain areas. But yeah, these guys were threatening me, but I wasn't letting it get to me, and I definitely wasn't going to call my mom and ask her to give me money because that would stress my poor mom out, and I was not going to do that. And so I just kept telling them no, and then finally that girl that was there, she knew me, and so she was telling them. She came in and she was like tell them like leave him alone, like don't do this, and eventually they just let me go. But it was a whole situation. They were trying to get me to give them money, or they said they were going to kill me, but I don't know that they would have.
Well, you called the bluff and you got out of it.
Yeah, I managed to get out of it, so that was lucky.
Did you tell me a similar story about some cops one time?
Oh, dude, the police are the biggest problem I have is with police, and that's in Colombia, Mexico, anywhere I go, I have issues with the police. They wanna shake you down. They wanna get you to bribe them, especially in Mexico. And I live in Mexico now. I still have these problems. Um, but I don't know which part one you're referring to. But in Mexico, one time we were in Tijuana, and these cops tried to shake us down. They were like, "Oh, we need to pat you down." I was like, "No, no, you don't." And they were patting my buddies down, and I was refusing. I was like, "No," I was like, "You're not gonna." I didn't have anything, but I didn't want them to. I just wanted them to leave me alone.
Yeah.
And this guy grabbed me and he put my hand on the car, and I pulled away from him. I'm like, "No," I'm like, "Fuck you." I'm like, "You're not searching me. You're not touching me." And then one of them other cops jumped on my back and put me in a chokehold. And I'm just a little guy, and I'm
Yeah.
pretty big, so I'm stumbling around. I'm like, ah, but he's like, he has me good. He's got me in a chokehold, and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, ah, and these other two guys kind of pull me down to the ground, and they're just, I mean, roughing me up, man. And finally, I'm like, all right, all right, all right. And like, y'all can, and they go through my pockets, and there's like some change, and I think I had a couple $100 or something like that, and my wallet. I didn't have any drugs. I didn't have anything on me. And they handcuff me and they sit me up, and they're like, "Why did you do that?" And I'm like, "Well, I didn't want to be searched, you know." And then they're telling my buddies, they're like, "We're taking him to jail. We're taking him to jail." And they're like, "Okay," like we don't know. They're like, "What do we do?" And they're like, "No." And I'm like, "They're not taking me to jail. They're not taking me to jail." And pretty much all they wanted was a bribe, and that's what they do. Normally they don't beat you up like that. Normally they just you yell at them and they leave you alone. But that time they beat me up pretty good. They hurt me, and made me a little nervous. But I knew they weren't going to take me to jail, but I wasn't sure that they weren't going to take me down the road and shoot me or something and throw me in a ditch, because they were roughing me up pretty good. And that was the first time that the police have ever actually like laid hands on me. Like, I interact with the police a lot in Mexico, and a lot of times they just want to bribe, and they'll let you go. And I don't ever give them anything, but I just kind of act crazy, and then they let me go. But this time they were laying hands on me, and it was the middle of the night. There was nobody around. I was like, I don't know if these guys won't kill me, but they didn't. They ended up letting me go. I think they stole my money that I had in my wallet, and then they let me go, and that was it.
That's not terrible. So, I mean, does word get around about a guy like you in these towns where, like, you got a reputation down there already, or not quite yet?
So in Iquitos for sure, and in Bogota. So whenever I'm in Bogota in the city, so a lot in the area I hang around, which is just the worst area you could possibly be in the city. The taxi drivers won't take white people there. I have to like get an Uber, and then the Uber the whole time's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure?" I'm like, "Yes." It's like, I want to be there,
Yeah.
and that's where I stay the whole time when I'm in Bogota. It's a really sketchy area. It's not good. But I have fun. I have a lot of good times there, and the people there, a lot of them know me. There's a ton of people, so not everybody, but I know a lot of people over there, and I get to go hang out and see those people. And then in Iquitos for sure, in Iquitos, Peru, I'm pretty known in the city, walking around, and I see a lot of people I know I'm familiar with, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely no comparison. But I do traveling for shows in the United States. I mean, I'm 99% of the time staying at a Red Roof Inn in a shit ass neighborhood, and I like to sit on. I'll go out on the second floor and I'll lean over the balcony and I watch the movement all night long, buddy. And
Yeah,
there's always you kind of learn the lay of the land real fast. But
yeah, it's a good time. I like that
yeah,
kind of stuff.
I like feeling like I could get stabbed at any time. And honestly, I never get stabbed. I'll be honest. Like, I think I'm so off-putting to people. Like, I'll roll into these places in like Louisiana wearing like a cat shirt and a Wu-Tang Clan fanny pack and maybe like some bright shoes and like golf shorts.
Exactly. You look cool. That's what it is you don't look like somebody like you don't look so much like an easy target, I think, and that's why I never have any problems. I don't think I look like an easy target. You get some guys down there that are, maybe walking around these bad areas looking for some hookers or something, and you got, you got your gray polo tucked into your khaki shorts with your belt on and your phone on your hip or whatever. You might get roughed up. You might get robbed.
Yeah.
A hooker might, set you up and things like that. But people like you or me, people that, if a regular, somewhat not, not a weenie looking guy, you'd probably be all right out there.
Well, I've got a weenie looking body. It's a little hairy. I think the face is what saves
Oh,
me.
but you look cool. You look like a cool guy. You look like you're a good time. I think the criminals respect you. That's what it is.
I wasn't fishing for compliments, but I do appreciate them.
Yeah.
I was saying again, just it's a good poker face in these bad neighborhoods, is I guess the way to put it. And I find that most people don't really want to fuck with anybody.
Absolutely.
I think I was in like Shreveport, or I was some shithole one time, and I was at like the last bar that was open. And I go behind the place, and it's a bunch of dudes that you typically wouldn't walk up to. And I walked up to them and I pulled a joint out of my fanny pack, and I lit it up, and I just handed it to the guy next to me, and we all just fucking hang out.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm purposely putting myself in bad situations. I just, like I said, most people don't want to fuck with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the same, and I think a lot of these, these bad areas, even in the United States, I think a lot of times it's, people are scared to do things. They hear things on the news or they hear things on the internet or whatever, and it's never really as bad, and the people are never really as bad as you would think. And I've never had any real problems. I mean, the one time, but I think I was told that I started it, so it's still in my head. I think I started it. I still think all these people are fine. I've never had any other problems, or too bad of problems. But
Yeah.
normally most people are completely fine, and everybody's cool. Especially in these other countries, they're more interested in why you're there. They want to talk to you. They're interested in you.
Yeah, I respect that. I see, like, my family cooks a lot. So, when I think about taking these trips, I think about like, going and cooking with people. You know what I mean? As gay as that sounds, making some like really trashy American meal that's going to make them sick for a couple but no, that's tight, man. So, we were joking around about the waivers earlier. Have you ever had a person get an injury on a trip?
Dude, yes. I need to get waivers, so I need waivers really bad. I'm actually, I say it every time I'm about to go on a trip. I'm actually about to leave for Indonesia and Australia on Sunday, and I have people coming to Australia, and I probably should have waivers because we're going to be messing around with a lot of crocodiles. We're going to be messing around with venomous snakes, things like that. I have in Colombia actually. So this kid that was with me, I think it was the first fucking day we were out there. This kid, he's a skateboarder. I think like a professional skateboarder or something, and he's from the UK, and he got bit on the foot by a big cayman. It bit him on the ankle, on the back of his foot. A tooth went in the bottom of his foot, and one went in the top of his ankle. And dude, I was nervous, dude. Like, what if what if he gets an infection and loses his foot, and his whole career, his skateboarding is over, And he didn't sign shit. He didn't sign any fucking waiver or anything. What if I fuck this kid's life up? Like, I'm fucked. That's the whole trip. I'm thinking this because he's limping around, walking on his toe the whole time because his foot hurts. We caught a lot of anacondas. We caught a lot of caymans. He had a really good time. His foot healed up pretty good. He still skateboards. I see his videos all the time, so he's okay. So I got lucky there. And the same trip, a guy got bit really bad on the hand by the biggest anaconda I've ever caught. This massive anaconda grabbed his hand, and he bled pretty good, but he was okay. But people. Luckily, nobody's been bitten by a venomous snake. Nobody's had anything too serious happen. I think I had a pretty bad cayman bite in Peru one time. Almost lost my finger, but other than that, nobody's had anything too serious happen yet. Maybe it will happen. I don't know. I let people kind of be the judge of themselves. Like a lot of these people that take other people out, like a lot of these herping expedition guys, like you'll see them that they advertise to like the photographers and the nerdy herpers and stuff. I don't advertise to those guys because I don't want a bunch of fucking loser photographers on my trip. I don't want to hang out with them. I want to hang out with cool people that want to have fun and catch cool shit.
Yeah.
But those guys don't even let you touch the animals. Like if you want to go with them, like if they find a fucking Bothrops or whatever, they're gonna hold it on a hook and let everybody look at it, but nobody else is allowed to touch it. If they catch a cayman, they'll catch it and they'll hold it and everybody can touch the tail or what, something gay like that. Like nobody fucking wants to do that. People they want to catch it themselves. They want to, I try to step back and let people do it themselves. I'll show them how to do it. I'll explain it. If they want to catch a cayman, I mean, you're an adult. If it was a kid with me, maybe I'd tell them no. But these are all adults. This is you're living your life. You're experiencing things. You can make your own fucking choices. If you want to handle this snake, you want to catch a cayman, I'm all for it. I'm here for it. And that's why I need a waiver though, because I do let people do whatever they want to do. I let them have a good time. And like I said, that one trip that I wasn't there when I got deported, it was a big group of guys, and I think every single one of them was able to get the opportunity to catch a cayman, and I thought that was pretty cool.
No, I respect that. And the waiver thing, man, I'm sure you could just Google generic waiver. And the reality is too, man, I mean, can you sue somebody in South America?
Well, I don't know. So that's the thing too, is I don't even live in the United States anymore. My business, it's not a real business. I'm not trying to like dissuade anybody from coming with me. I'm trying to maybe I should set it up like a legitimate business. I advertise like it is. I don't even live in the United States. I don't pay taxes. I live in Mexico. I get paid in like cryptocurrency. I don't exist. So I'm just I'm just out here. I don't know. If somebody sues me, I don't know where it would come from because I don't own anything, and I don't live here. So maybe not. And a lot of my customers are from out of the country too. So I get a lot of Europeans. I get a lot of I get people from Mexico, South America that come on these trips. I get a lot of variety. I get a lot of people from all over.
Yeah, no, you told me about some of the experiences, some of the things you let guys know ahead of time, their reluctance to doing certain things, and then suddenly they're all about it. Yeah, I think there's just something about, like I said, I do think that I would be a little hesitant about stuff. And I'll be honest, dude, you're going to fucking love going in the woods with me because I've got this high-pitched scream I get when little things touch me. Like, that guy at the show that when a ball python bites the tip of my finger, I'm probably yanking it. It might sling a few feet in the opposite direction when I panic. I don't know what it is, man. Maybe it's the comedy side out of it because it makes people laugh, but man, you're gonna hear some sounds out of me in the woods.
You need to come, man. You need to come. We have a really good time. And like Dan was saying earlier, like some of the times it's not even just about, finding animals, because sometimes you're not finding. This last Peru trip, we didn't find as many animals as I would like to. Normally this exact time last year was one of the best Peru trips I've ever done. But this time we found, aquatic coral snake, we found some tree snakes, we found a few things, we found some cool stuff, but it wasn't to the extent that I normally do. And I was a little upset about that, but we made do, and we ended up since we weren't finding a whole lot in the jungle, we actually ended up partying on a beach for a lot of the time. We found a beach where the Peruvians were hanging out, and we started hanging out with a lot of the local Peruvians on this beach, and we drank beer with them. We had a really good time. I had this big boat that we were staying on. We were sleeping on this big like river boat, like in the movie Anaconda, and we had a really good time, and we made the best out of it since we weren't finding as many animals. We still had a really good time. It was a lot of fun. We made do.
No, I mean, a vacation's a vacation, and anything you're going to do out of country is different from anything you've done before. So, I, of course, when I go fishing, when I go herping, I want to catch, but I respect what's going on around me a little bit more. And, I'll be straight. If I was on the beach with a bunch of random people laughing for 3 days, I'd be the happiest guy in the world.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And we were still finding stuff like we found like while on the way to the beach, we found a tiger rat snake climbing in the trees along the river. You're still finding stuff. You're still in the jungle. You're still having a really good time. You're still getting that experience. You're seeing birds. You're seeing different animals, stuff that you're not used to, and I mean, it's a great time. It's always a good time being out there.
Okay. And how many people usually take it on these trips? What's your average group size?
So lately I'm having a lot. I have a lot of people signing up on these trips, and like you were saying earlier, it's because of social media and the people that I take. I take a lot of these influencers, these YouTubers and TikTokers and Instagrammers. I take these people because um, I like to have fun, and these people are a lot of fun. You know, these guys are cool, and they help me a lot. They get the word out of these expeditions, and so now my trips. This last trip was 16 people. This last Peru trip, so it was 16 people that I had, and then in December I have 12 people going to Peru. I had to cut it off because it's a smaller area. So sometimes I try to keep it under 10 generally because it's a better number, but sometimes we do have I have more space, I have more available uh, lodging arrangements, and I have other guides I can hire to take people out so we can separate the groups. It's not, it's not 16 people going out at night and making a bunch of fucking noise looking for snakes. We're separating into like groups of 3 or 4, and we're going out, and some people don't want to go out. So a lot of these people I'm getting aren't herpers. We're getting a lot of regular people, that want to come and they just want to experience the rainforest. They want to experience wildlife and have a good time out there. So they're happy whenever they find, little vine snakes and things like that. They get so excited, all the little bugs, the spiders and stuff that I've seen a billion fucking times. Every time you go out, you see these frogs and these things. But these people have never done anything like that. They're having the best time of their lives, And I get a lot of those people now. It's really cool. We have a really good time, even with the larger groups.
No, and you're a guy that can hang. You're a guy that can take care of yourself, which goes a long way on these trips. So how about this, man? We're about that 2-hour mark, so I'm okay with wrapping this up. We can always go longer. Why don't first off, what's your business? Like, what is your title out there now?
My business?
Yeah.
So it's El Gringo Grande. So El Gringo Grande Wildest Expeditions.
Right.
So I like to put that Wildest Expeditions because, like I was telling you, there's people that do the expeditions. There's other people like Dan that do them. There's other people. I won't name the other guys because fuck those guys. But I love Dan. Dan's probably the only other guy that does the expeditions that I'm friends with, that I have a really good connection with. These other guys, they don't like me because I do things a little bit differently. I let people mess with the animals. I have a good time. I like to make jokes and have fun. And these other guys they're all professional. They're conservationists, and I do a lot for conservation. I might not seem like a nerdy fucking hippie conservationist. I do a lot of work for conservation. We give a lot of money to conservation. We do a lot of work with these researchers, especially with the caimans and stuff. So I do a lot for conservation, but I don't have that conservationist appearance, And so these guys don't like me, and I got into it recently with a bunch of these guys whenever I posted that coral snake, and I said, "Oh, look at this milk snake I found in the Amazon," and all these nuts went crazy with it, and all these guys they don't like me. The other guys that do the herping expeditions, but I'm not even in competition for them because it's a completely different market. I'm not doing herping expeditions. I'm doing wild expeditions. I'm doing crazy fun shit for everybody, not just people who want to take a photograph of a frog. And that's what those other guys do. Not Dan. Dan does really cool trips. Dan is what got me started in this. I went with Dan, had the best fucking time of my life on that Peru expedition with him, and he really showed me the way on how to do this. I've been on many trips with Dan, and I love what Dan does, and I love the place he's building there in Costa Rica. But the other guys is who I'm talking about. The nerdy guys.
To be honest with you, ahead of this, it started with me and you talking about doing this podcast, and I brought Dan up. But when I asked you to bring him on, I almost thought, I wonder what that relationship is now that you've gone and done your own business, because some people get a little jealous, some people get a little competitive in this.
Yeah,
I'm glad
it's
that
competitive, and I think I lost some relationships with some people because of it.
yeah,
But not Dan. Dan's always been really cool about it. I don't know. I might have like maybe irritated him a little bit that I started doing it.
yeah,
I probably did, but I love Dan, and I'll always support Dan, and I tell everybody about Dan's stuff. And I think what I do is a little bit differently than what Dan does.
yeah.
We don't do the same places. Uh, and of course, I've wanted to do trips with Dan, like maybe set some things up together. We talk all the time. Me and Dan talk all the time about things. So there's no I don't view it as any competition. It's something that we can absolutely work together on things and do things together that benefit both of us. But like I said, I think we're in different kind of different different places, not different industries, but like different
Demographic.
yeah, different demographics maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much Dan. Dan kind of gets to everybody too. He allows everybody to come. He allows people to handle the animals. Um, but I think he's mostly. I haven't seen him posting a lot of his trips. I think he gets a lot of people that hit him up, and he just sets up trips based for those people.
Yeah.
Because he's focusing a lot right now on his Costa Rica lodge that he's building, which is amazing. It looks incredible. I don't know if you've seen all that, but that place looks. He's almost done, and it looks incredible. And I want to bring people there. I want to set up trips and bring people to his lodge in Costa Rica.
No, I respect that. I would really love my first trip to be with both you guys, to be honest. And I wouldn't mind showing up like a day early to get a little one-on-one time, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I love big group settings. You know me, man. I'm a social butterfly, but like I said, it's just kind of cool when guys like you that I know are doing things like this, and I can weasel my way into it every once in a while.
Yeah.
I've already told you I'm not going to pay full price. Probably not even close. Right down to the very last day, I'm going to be, I'm going to need one of those like URL codes so I can start promoting for you, and then you give me a
Hey,
discount on the
dude,
travel.
I do, and that's what I do for all the social media guys. So anybody here who's got a big fucking social media, anybody watching, I don't know if you got people watching this right now or they'll watch
Probably not.
later.
Probably not.
If you got a big social media, anybody, you too, even if it's not that big, if you promote my expeditions and you want to come and you promote it and I get people, if you get people for me that are paying me for the expedition, I will give you discounts. I'll give you like I said, the fishing Garrett. He has a massive following. He gets me tons of people. So I
Yeah.
mean, I completely pay for his trip. I paid for this last trip. I paid for his flight. I paid for everything for him because he got me half the people. That 16 people. He got me half of those people, and I got a lot of them alone. But I had it almost full, and then he made a little post for me, just a little fucking post, and I got 8 people in a day
Yeah.
added, and I was like, holy shit. And
Yeah.
he's helped me a ton, and so he gets free trips for sure. And other people, like if there's other social media guys, and I get a lot of guys that come, and a lot of guys come on these trips, and they become really good friends of mine. And you come on one trip, and you have a really good time. Then you come on another one, we have a really good time, and then it's like we're buddies. And then obviously, you don't have to pay full price anymore. You're coming on a lot of these trips. You're going to get a discount. I might even do it at cost or whatever for these guys. You support me. I'm gonna help you out, of course. And of course, with like I was saying, with the social media people, if people help me promote, or if somebody wants to on a future trip, like promote it and be like, hey, we're doing a Peru expedition or a Colombia expedition or an Australia expedition with, you know,
Blake.
TJ, whoever, this person, this social media person, if I
Yeah.
can make posts like that and you promote it and I promote it as that, then that person can come for free, or whatever, if they're going to benefit me, I have no problem helping people out.
No, in respect, and that's the way it's supposed to be in business. All right, Blake, honestly, dude, I really do appreciate you, man. I definitely want to do another one. I will say that the botfly one still stands as maybe one of my favorite moments with you.
Oh,
And
that was a great thing. That was
uh,
awesome.
I was gonna actually make a necklace with the botfly on it and wear it for this, but you know,
We still need to get that tattoo. We never got our Bartholomew tattoos.
Yeah, man. First off, I'm not doing that shit in Mexico. You gotta.
Oh, come on.
Maybe,
Let's do it.
man.
Let's do it in Peru. Look, I get tattoos every time I'm in Peru.
Okay,
Oh, the gringo, the gringo tattoo. That was done in Peru. The cayman tattoo. I don't know if you can see that. I don't know. The camera's backwards. All Peru, man. And I get them for. They're cheap. Cheap.
Do they do American traditional down there? They do anything you show them, right?
Oh, they don't do anything really good. It's all shitty. But it's that's the fun part about it. It's a little shitty. I have this one. I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. It says it's supposed to say Pelicara, which is a legend down there of the white people. You know, the people in northern Peru. They see white people and they think they're the Pelicara, which is basically it translates roughly to like a face peeler. And so they kind of joke and they joke at me and they're like, oh, Pelicara, and then as a joke I got it tattooed on me.
Yeah, of course.
But the tattoo I got in Peru, and it was done so shittily that it looks like it says "de la caca," which in Spanish means like from the shit. So I have this big tattoo on my forearm that says basically like you're from the shit, or of the shit.
I think both those meanings work for you, so I think that's a win-win in my opinion.
It's a good thing, and I love shitty tattoos. I love getting shitty tattoos. So there's good tattoos I don't like so much. You get a good tattoo, nobody ever asks you, why you got that good tattoo. They want to know the story behind that shitty frog smoking a meth pipe. They want to know why you got that tattoo and where you got it done. So all my tattoos are pretty shitty, and I get a lot of questions, and I like talking about them.
No, respect, man. I mean, the gringo tattoo was perfect. Some people thought it was fake when they saw it. I knew it had to be real.
It's real. I got it. It's forever. Gringo.
Yeah, that's it, man. Like that's living the dream right there. You know what that is? That's fuck you money, and I know that thing cost you $15.
Yeah, it was cheap.
All right. Well, hey, man, like I said, I appreciate it again. If you want to give yourself one more plug, and then again, guys, get in the comments. Take a look at what Blake's doing out there for sure.
Yeah, El Gringo Grande. I got elgringogrande.com. I need to update it with the new expeditions we have. Instagram is El Gringo Grande. You just search that, I'll pop up. I should be the first one. Facebook, Blakey 2-inch, whatever. But yeah, I got a lot of trips coming up. A lot of them are sold out right now. They sell out fast. I have a new one that I just set up. That's something we've never done before. It's going to be like a jungle cruise. So we're going to be cruising on this big river boat. It'll take us a couple days to get to our jungle camp where we're staying, but we're staying in really, really far out in the jungle in this pristine primary rainforest. So we're really far out. It takes a couple days by boat to get there. So we're going to be 2 days on a big river boat. And then we'll stay in the jungle for a few nights and then on the boat on the way out. And so it's going to be a really cool expedition, and that's going to be in April. So I'm about to start posting information for that. But I have a couple others that are out still that I have space open for. But yeah, that's it. El Gringo Grande.
All right, love it, man. Like I said, dude, you're looking the best you've ever looked as long as I've known you, man. I'm glad you're happy. I'm looking forward to seeing these adventures you keep on posting.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you. I appreciate you setting this up. It's fun to talk to you. I miss talking to you. I miss talking to Daniel. I tell you, me and Daniel send videos and stuff back and forth, but that's I don't really we don't get to one-on-one time. I don't think I've seen him in maybe a year or so. So it's good to see both of y'all.
All right, well, like I said, maybe we'll plan something to Costa Rica. Like I said, I'd love to see what he's doing down there. Costa Rica seems like the safest first option for me.
We should definitely do that. We should definitely go down to Dan's place and check it out.
Okay. We're acting like high school girls now. This is my final goodbye, buddy. You be safe.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
Later, buddy.
Bye.
Okay, guys. Another week, another podcast. Appreciate you guys all tuning in. Like I said, it's going to be a great weekend in Tinley. Can't wait for the auction again. Keep Sean Gray in mind. Really mean that. Like I said, I dabbled on this before, but he's a guy that I met in the last year and a half, that I wish I put a better effort into having conversations. Like I said, the guy always glowed when I saw him, was always very cordial. I feel like I really missed out on not knowing that guy better. But again, guys, it's always good having you. I hope you guys had fun this week, and I'll see you soon.